Hello, everyone, and welcome to the past paper solution session for our Cambridge O-Level English Language 1123. And the past paper that we are going to solve in today's session is from our May June exam series of 2024. We are going to solve paper number 1 of our variant number 2, which is the variant that is going to be allocated for the candidates who are appearing from Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. As far as the structure of the paper is concerned, so you guys have a very crystal clear idea about the structure. You would be allocated with two documents. One would be the insert, which is being displayed on my screen. The insert will contain two passages, text A, which is for your section number A, and you have to attempt question number 1 and question number 2 out of it. Question number 1 is for the assessment of your explicit and the implicit skills, and question number 2 is the assessment of your skills of language. Text B is in alignment with your section B, where you have to attempt two parts of question number 3. Part A is a summary writing question, and part B is a short response question. The second document which will be given to you is the question paper, which will appear like this. You have to fill up the first page of your paper of this document by providing your credential, where you're going to write down your candidate number, candidate name, center number as per what is being issued in your statement of in-raise. Then you don't have to write anything on the front page of it. This page contained set instructions and information, and from page number 2 onwards, it start with your questions that you can clearly see on my screen. One thing that you have to keep in focus, that from the exam series of May June 2024, what Cambridge has did, that now they are giving you with this sort of a structure, where you can clearly see that do not write in this margin. That means that they have already provided you with the particular area of the paper where you have to record your answer. Another thing that you can see on your answer script is a barcode. This barcode is basically for the scanning purpose. As a checker, we do not receive your answer script in the form of a hard copy. We receive your answer script in the form of a soft copy. The procedure that is being followed by the Cambridge, that before handing over the the soft copies of your answer scripts to the checker, Cambridge omit out the first page where all of your information, your name, your center number, and your candidate number is being mentioned. So that means that as a checker, I would be given with the answer script, which is starting directly from page number 2, and I have no particular clue that who has attempted this paper. This barcode is being scanned, as this barcode is all answer script is being scanned, and it's aligned with your attendance sheet. So let's proceed with our session. These were the general instructions that should supposed to mind before beginning to read the passage. As this is our reading paper, so the whole entire skills that are going to be assessed are relevant with the reading. So we are going to apply the effective strategies of reading that we have discussed in our lectures before. Reading techniques, we are going to skim or we are going to scan. If you are an avid reader, so skimming or pre-reading can be an effective tool for you. Or even if you're just going to avoid skimming and the pre-reading, and if you directly start with the scanning, so that would be more effective tool. Pre-reading and skimming is basically just to set up your mind to read. As far as the exam point of view is concerned, so when we are sitting in the examination hall, so we are already with the mindset that regardless with any sort of interest or likes or dislikes, we have to read, right? So the strategy that I'm going to follow in today's session for the reading is the scanning. When we are scanning the paper, when we are scanning the text, right? So it's not like that we are scanning it by using some sort of app, or the Cambridge is going to give you some sort of a scanners to scan the whole entire thing. Scanning means that you are going to read the text thoroughly. You are going to look at the each and every detail, what the text says, how the character is being developed, what exactly happened, how the problem occurred, and how it was solved, and what specific impression or the impact has been conveyed. Right. So before beginning, let me highlight another feature of the text which is given in the text A. Usually, these texts are taken from a longer piece of a novel, and we might have read that book or we might not have read that book. So, most of the cases, the students, the candidates has no particular idea that from which book the extract has been taken. So, what the examiner usually do, that they provide you the background information regarding the text. As you can see, the first three lines of text A are written in italicized context. So that means that it's the background information about the character or about the event. The text is with the headline where it all began, right? And the particular background that has been given to you over here, that it says that in this extract from a story set a long time ago in Italy, the writer has just started as a kitchen worker in a grand palace. One of his duties is to transport heavy blocks of ice from the ice house in the palace gardens to the kitchen. So, this is giving us a very clear understanding that the event took place in somewhere in Italy. The main character, the narrator of the text, the writer of the text, has got a job, and his job included with some sort of task. He was supposed to work in a grand palace, which was the name of a place, right? And the duties that were assigned to him, that he was working in a kitchen, and his main duty was to drag the huge slabs of the ice from the garden into the kitchen, right? So let's start scanning the text. Paragraph number 1 says, the first time I did this, the curiosity of playing with the frozen slabs, of seeing how they slid away from me like eels, how I could ride them down the slope, or best of all, shoot them at the kitchen wall from a distance, and watch them shatter into jewel like shards, enchanted me so much that in a state of the childish enthusiasm, I neglected my duties. So the understanding that we can develop from this paragraph is that the writer starts working in a grand palace and is given the task of carrying the big blocks of the ice from the garden of the palace into the kitchen inside. And the first time he does it, he gets carried away like a playful child. He finds it magical that how ice blocks slide, how he can write them like a game, and especially how they smash into the beautiful glittering pieces when thrown at a wall. He is so enchanted that he forgets all the particular responsibilities or the duties that has been assigned to him. Paragraph number 2 states that when Ahmed, my master, found me in the courtyard surrounded by ruined ice blocks, he showed none of the displeasure which I knew my ill discipline warranted. Come with me, he said without expression. So, what exactly happened that as soon as the writer started to work in the Grand Palace, one day while he was dragging the huge blocks of the ice from the garden to the inside of the kitchen, accidentally, one huge slab of the ice slipped from his hands and it straightly crashed into the wall. And as soon as it crashed with the wall, it smashed down, scattered into the different small, tiny pieces. This phenomena was very captivating for the author that he quickly got the flashback of his childhood. And as the writer was captivated with this phenomena, so he forgets all about himself and the particular things that has been surrounded him. He forgets that why he is here, what task is he supposed to do, and what can be the consequences of it. So he basically enjoyed this thing. In paragraph number 2, as soon as the writer encountered that he is being watched with his master, Ahmed, the owner of the place, the person who has been in charge of the place and with whose command the whole entire place is being functionalized. He found him standing in the courtyard, and he basically caught him red-handed with the broken pieces of the ice. Now the writer realizes that it's a bad time for him, right? He has disappointed his master, and now he's going to face some sort of consequences of it. But to the astonishment for the writer, the master did not express any sort of sign of disapproval, disappointment, or even anger. Instead, the master requested him to step inside with him. Now, let's proceed with paragraph number 3. He took me to the ice house and ushered me in, apparently closing the door tight shut behind me inside in the pleasant contrast to the stifling heat outside. It was a temperature at which water becomes ice. Initially, through dressed in a thin shirt and the short breeches, I stood congratulating myself on avoiding the task of cleaning up. After a few minutes, I began to shiver. The cold felt like a flame. A few more minutes, and I was shaking from the searing cold. My confidence crumbled. Feebly, I leaned against the door, which surprisingly swung open to reveal Ahmed waiting patiently outside. I never again played with the ice. So here the writer is basically describing that Ahmed takes the boy, the writer, to the ice house, which was a freezing cold room and where the ice is being stored. The writer locks him. The Ahmed locks him. At first, the boy feels very clever for avoiding the cleanup duty, as he has scattered the whole entire a huge ice slab into a very tiny pieces, but he has not been asked to clean it up. His thin clothes, but as soon as the cold creeps in, so his thin clothes offer no protection, no mercy at all to the writer. What felt like a fun is now becoming painful. The cold strings were like a fire, and after a while, he shivers uncontrollably and loses all of his confidence. He leans against a door, which unexpectedly opens, and there stands Ahmed, who was calm and waiting. It was a very big lesson in discipline for the writer, and from the day forward, the writer never ever thought to play with the ice again. Moving on to paragraph number 5. Paragraph number 5 says that each night, exhausted, I crawled into the kitchen to sleep next to the huge open fireplace the cooks used to roast meats. The cooks grew used to me. I watched them as they worked, observing how they peeled fruits to intensify the flavors, how they extracted the perfumes of flowers to flavors cream and liqueurs. But when I suggested to Ahmed that we could use these techniques, he waved me away. We are engineers, not cooks. He would proclaim cooking is women's business and we know the secret of the eyes. Here, the crucial side of the Ahmed's character is being revealed on the author. Author has been allocated the particular place where he is supposed to stay, and it was basically very icy cold. So in order to spend the night, what the strategies that the author adopted was to place himself nearby to a fireplace. Slowly, gradually, with the passage of the time, all the workers who had been working inside get used to see author on a daily basis. Author has been observing the way the rest of the cooks has been doing to peel out the fruits and squashing juices from the flowers to give the taste to the special dish that they have been famous or well known for. So one day the author thought to give some sort of suggestions to the Ahmed, but as soon as the author presented the suggestion, so Ahmed rudely ignored him and mentions that do not consider us like a cook. We are not cook. We are engineers. That means okay, we are some sort of sophisticated persons who are transforming something into a different thing. And Ahmed blames that cooking is a woman's business. Men's are not born to cook. And Ahmad also showed the superior side of his character on the author, that he is the one, or they are the one who knows the secrets of the ice. That means how they are going to turn ice into the different flavors or different sort of dishes that they have been using as they are working in the kitchen. So that means they are either making some sort of drink, some sort of juice, or might be some sort of dish. This is what we so far have understood till what we have read. Now, moving on to paragraph number 6. Indeed, these were the ancient secrets known to few, passed down within two families who supplied frozen ice to the royal court. Some of this knowledge was contained in stained leather bound notebooks, but most was kept only in Ahmed's head. In a set of the rules he had no desires to questions. To 5 measures of the crushed ice at 3, he would recite. Why? I would say. Why what? Why must the ice be crushed? What does it matter? Stir the mixture clockwise. So Ahmed basically treats ice making as a sacred tradition which had been passed down through only two families who served the royal court. Some instructions are written in the old, worn out notebooks, but most of the knowledge lives only in Ahmed's brain, in Ahmed's head. He recites the steps without ever explaining that why the things are supposed to be done in a certain way that he wants rest of the cooks to follow. One day, when the author asks about the why, so he got the real answer. Ahmed is not at all interested in questioning on the old methods. That means that whatever the techniques he had been taught by his ancestors, he wanted to go on with them without even explaining to the new persons. Paragraph number 7 says that I had been working for Ahmed almost 2 years before I dared to ask what the ice we made tasted like. What does the taste matter to you, child? Answered Ahmed. Sir, I have seen how the cooks try their dishes as they make them. I think I will understand better how to make these ices if I know how they are meant to taste. We were making an ice flavored with a tempting syrup of a small sweet oranges. Very well, Ahmed said casually. Try some. So here the author is expressing that it took almost 2 years for him to build enough courage to ask that what the ice that he had been working with tastes like. So as soon as this wish of the author is being revealed on Ahmed, so Ahmed's acts like that it's a strange question. And he mentioned that why do you want to taste it? Why does it matter to you? So the writer presented his opinion that if he knows the flavor, so he will understand the craft, the way the flavor have been crafted in a better way. So at that particular moment, when the discussion was ongoing, they were making an ice flavored with sweet oranges, and Ahmed surprisingly agrees to let him to try it. Over here, another character or trait of the Ahmed's personality is being revealed on the author. Previously, author was considering Ahmed a rude person who never allow the workers to question and never share the explanation to the worker behind the instructions. But all of a sudden, as soon as the suggestion is being presented in front of Ahmed, so Ahmed get agrees to it and allow the author to taste the ice, which means that Ahmed is somehow compassionate, understanding person. Okay, now let's move to the paragraph number 8. Then we are going to be left with 4 more paragraphs. This text A contains 12 paragraphs. So paragraph number 8 says that before he could change his mind, I grabbed a spoon, scooping out a little and putting it to my lips. Ice crystals cracked and crunched against my teeth, dissolving on my tongue with a sparkling sensation. I gasped with delight, then pain, as the cold gripped my throat. I spluttered. Ahmed's lip curled with amusement. So as soon as the writer got the approval from the Ahmed side, so a writer did not wanted to waste any of the single moment, because if in case Ahmed is going to change his mind. So what the writer did that without even wasting a second, he scooped some sort of ice into his mouth. At first, it seems quite very magical because he had never tasted it before. The icy crunch, the cold dancing on his trunk. Sorry, not trunk, tongue. But then pain strikes. The freezing cold seizes his throat and make him gasp. Ahmed was watching and he was slightly amused. So here the curiosity of the writer is being expressed out, like what made writer to being very curious to taste that particular thing that they have been making. And as soon as the writer was allowed to taste it, so what were the outcomes, what were the impacts on the writer. Now, moving on to the last paragraphs, which is paragraph number 9. And the paragraph number 9 says that now, perhaps you understand that this is not a dish for us. We are here to entertain boy. We are like the singers or actors for the wealthy and the great. No one but them will ever be able to waste so much expense on something that melts to nothing. But once I would got over the initial strangeness, I found I could not forget the extraordinary flavor, nor the cold, frozen glitteriness. It was as if the ice itself was incising, tearing me on. From then on, without Ahmed's knowing, I tasted every ice confection we made. So as soon as author was allocated with the permission that he can taste it, and the author had tasted and his sensation told him the taste, Ahmed then explains that their creations are not meant for the ordinary people like they are, like the Ahmed and the workers are. Ahmed considered themselves that they are performers, entertainers for the rich people. Only the wealthy can afford such beautiful but fleeting things that melt into nothing. Yet, the writer is hooked. The taste and the texture of that one bite stays with him for a very longer time. So, from that moment on, the writer secretly tasted every ice they made. Paragraph number 10 says, I sometimes wondered why Ahmed shared his knowledge so readily with me, but soon realized that to him I was simply a workhorse, a creature incapable of reason. He taught me what he knew, not because he wanted to share his secrets, but because he wanted to share the labor. And so I learned the subtle art of more complex water ice, sorbet. Now we encounter the name of that particular dish. The dish that they have been making is a liquid that is known as sorbet, in which the syrups themselves were frozen, transforming magically to the mounds of the glittering crystals and the sherbets. The most difficult and the enchanting of all, expertly infused with the fragrant cardamom and resembling refrozen snow. So the writer begins to wonder that why Ahmed is teaching him everything. Eventually, he realizes that it is not out of the kindness. Ahmed is looking at him as a tool, as a helper, not as a creative thinker or a critical thinker. He is being trained just to take over the hard work, not to understand or innovate. Still, the writer learns how to make more advanced ices like sorbet, sweet syrups, icy crystals, and the sherbets, which were even more complex and beautifully flavored like the frozen snow. That means that the dish they have been mastering in making and they have been preparing in their kitchen is something like the syrups and some sort of liquid which is turning or being mixed up with the ice. So the flavor is being provided to the ice and It melts as soon as it has been taken inside the mouth. Now, moving on to the second last paragraph, which is paragraph number 11. And it says that there were still secrets, special ingredients described in the notebooks which Emmett kept to himself to ensure that he would always know less than he did. If I suggested we try a new flavor, Emmett would say flatly, "It's not one of the flavors. Look in the book." He was taunting me. Of course, he knew I could not read. Nor did I need to read it to know that only four flavors were all its ancient pages permitted. Our ices had another drawback too, the shooting pain which came from the biting down on them. I longed to make an ice that was smooth, soft, and creamy ice cream. So, over here, the writer is expressing that Ahmed still keeps some sort of secrets to himself, like some sort of special ingredients that is being used in making this liquid, and they are hidden in the ancient notebooks. So whenever the author suggests trying something new, so Ahmed shuts him down by saying that it is not one of the flavor. Look in the box, knowing that the writer is not sufficient enough to read. And writer believed that only four traditional flavors have been used, which are very vague tradition. So the ice that they have been making are also painfully cold when they bitten into. So he begins to dream of making something new, something smoother, something just like an ice cream. The last paragraph, paragraph number 12 says, "So began a period in which I lived a double life. By day, I followed Ahmed's instructions dutifully, but by night, I was a kind of alchemist. The kitchen, my laboratory, as I experimented wildly, without method or purpose, trying increasingly outlandish and ridiculous combinations of flavors and the ingredients. I froze soft cheeses, vegetable juices, even soups, hoping to the chance on something, some method, some key, something that could unlock the deepest frozen secrets of the ice cream." So the whole entire journey is basically about the author who is trying to learn some sort of new techniques, who wanted to bring some sort of innovation in the traditional methods that has been used to make the dish. The writer expresses the challenges he faced to develop his understanding with his master Ahmed. The writer also expresses the particular way Ahmed is treating his workers and his particular modes and temperament. Sometimes Ahmed is behaving like a friend, and sometimes Ahmed is too bossy to handle. Right? So let's go to our question paper. This is our question paper. It includes some sort of set instructions. So let's have a look at instructions. What the instruction says. First point says that answer all the questions, which means that you have no choice in this paper. You have to attempt each and every question, each and every part of the question. Second part says that use a black or a dark blue pen, that you are only allowed to use black or a dark blue pen. You are not at all allowed to use pencils to record your answers. However, you can use pencils in the insert to make your notes, like after reading each and paragraph the way I have been explaining. So in the same way, you can write down the main idea in front of each and every paragraph. In this way, you would be able to save the time once you have read the whole entire text, and now you encounter any sort of difficulty while you are answering any sort of question. So rather than going back and reading the whole entire longer text again, which is very time consuming, you can just simply look at the main idea, that this idea is being discussed in the paragraph number ABC 4541. So you can extract your informations in a very quick way. The third bullet point says that write your name, center number, and the candidate numbers in the boxes at the top of the page. Here you can see that a space has been provided to write down your candidate name, which should be as per your statement of entry. The center number, which is being given by your center, usually when you are sitting for the in the examination hall for the examination. So the invigilators show you the center number, or the center number is also mentioned in your statement of entry. Candidate number, examiner is not going to provide you, invigilator is not going to provide your candidate number. Your candidate number Cambridge has already provided you, and it would be written on your statement of entry. So that means that you have to fill up all of these three columns according to your credentials. Then the next point says that write your answer to each question in the space provided. That means that you are not at all allowed to use any sort of extra sheets. You can use a supplementary sheets, but only for paper number 2, not for paper number 1. Do not use an erasable pen or the correction fluid. You are strictly prohibited to use any sort of ink remover, ink eradicator, or any sort of Vito even. Do not write on any barcodes, because the barcodes are very crucial, because of the barcodes your attendance is being marked, and due to your attendance the whole entire answer script is being recorded. Dictionaries are not allowed. For this paper, you are not at all allowed to use any sort of dictionary. Remember, the invigilators will not be able to give you the meaning of any particular sort of vocabulary word. And the rest of the information regarding the paper is that this paper is of 50 marks, 25 mark for your section A, and 25 mark for your section number B. The total number for each and every questions have been shown by using the structure of brackets. The insert contain the reading passages. So that means that the question paper is a different document and the insert is a different document. But as soon as you are done with the paper and you are going to submit it to your invigilator, wherever the place you would be sitting for your exam, you have to submit the insert alongside your paper. Now let's move on to the questions. Question number 1, part A. In paragraph number 1, what did the writer enjoy the most about moving the ice blocks the first time he did this? So the strategy that you're going to follow to answer your question is that the first and foremost thing that must be crystal clear to you is the focus of the question and the nature of the question. The nature of the question means that if it is an explicit question or it's an implicit question, right? As far as the explicit question is concerned, so if you're lifting some part from the original text, so it is allowed, right? As far as the implicit questions are concerned, so you are going to make your understanding based on the clues that has been given in the text, right? So the command which has been given in the question in paragraph number 1, right? What did the writer enjoy most? That means that you have to go back to the paragraph number 1 and you have to take out one particular thing that writer enjoys most. So that means it's an explicit question, right? So far, for explicit question, as I have mentioned in my lectures before, that you are allowed to lift up the text, but if we just look into this aspect according to a linguistic, from the language rules, so this is a comprehension, and comprehension means to show your understanding, and your understanding standings are going to be shown by using your own words. So what I usually recommend my candidates it is that even for the explicit questions, you better to show your understanding by using your own words. Yes, there are few particular rooms, few particular things that you cannot change, you cannot undo, you cannot rephrase, like the name of the place, person, or the thing, that you have to use same exactly. So if we go back to paragraph number 1, so let's see what particular clue is there. Here is paragraph number 1. So mm, we have to identify the most fun part of the moving ice, which is being based on paragraph number 1, right? So if we just look at the paragraph number 1, so there is a superlative degree have been used over here, or the best to shoot all them at the kitchen, right? So this is referring to the phenomena where the author is pushing the huge blocks of ice with the wall. So that means that watching the ice blocks breaking down into the places is the thing that the writer enjoys a lot. So let's compose your answer over here. Hmm, So we can start our answer that watching the ice blocks breaking down into small pieces. Or if you seems like that small is a very common word, so you can use a synonym, right? Or even if you're just going to pick up the particular phrase from the text, so your answer is going to be considered correct. As the general queries I have answered before in my lectures as well, that most of the candidates ask that are we going to allowed, or if the marks have are going to be allocated if in case we have written the short sentence, not the whole entire sentence. So yes, you are eligible enough to get the full marks even if you are using the phrases in your answer, until unless they are providing the proper meaning. If the phrase or the short sentence structure that you are using in your answer is not giving any sort of clear meaning, so do not expect any sort of marks. Okay, so the next question is from line number 4. One thing that you can see that at the beginning of the question, using your own words. This command has been given to you in the bullet points, sorry, into the bold letters. This means that this is a restriction to this question. This thing I have discussed in my lectures before as well, that if the question has already restricted you to use your own words, and in your answer you have not used your own words, so now there are two particular conditions. Either you have picked up the longer piece from the text, which is not recommended at all. Maybe the examiner is going to cancel your answer. And the reason behind canceling the answer is that the candidate has not follows the particular instructions which were given in the question. Right? Second, if you're going to lift up few part of the text, so somehow it is going to be accepted, but you will not be given with the full marks here. Right? So the text says that I neglected my other duties. If we go back to the paragraph and we look at line number 4, right? So at the end of line number 4, it says that I neglected my other duties. This is the phrase that is being used, right? So this is making us to understand that the phenomena, or the author was very captivating with the phenomena of watching the ice into the small pieces, that he totally forgot or ignored or failed to complete his task, right? So let's write our answer over here. I ignored or forgot to do the rest of my work because I was distracted by playing with ice blocks or ice slabs. Okay, so I have written my answer with the perspective of the I. So now the question arises that as the phrase has taken from the text and that is from the writer's point of view. So if we use the perspective of I or the pronoun I in our answer, so would it going to be acceptable? Yes, it is going to be acceptable, because you are supposed to explain what the author means. You are not at all supposed to comment on what the authors mean, right? When we are commenting on what author means, so that means we are going to comment on the way the author has used the language, right? Now, next move on to our question number 3, which is basically from paragraph number 3. And in paragraph number 3, we discussed that Ahmed basically takes the boy, the writer, inside the house and showed him the rest of the works. And the question says that how did the writer feel at first about being in the ice house? Give 2 details from the text to support your answer. Now, let me recall one skill that we have to follow over here. This question is of 3 mark, and you can see that one particular space has been higher allocated for the feeling. So that means 1 mark is for feeling and 2 marks are for detail. These sort of questions are known as the textual based or textual evidence based questions, right? So if you are saying that the writer was feeling happy, so you have to make sure that you are providing 2 particular details which expresses that why the writer was happy. Sometimes it happens that when we are reading the text, so we may infer or we may encounter so many feelings that the writer might be having that at that particular time. The writer might be happy, the writer might be anxious, the writer might be scared, or the writer might be surprised. If in case 2 or 3 feelings have been expressed in the same exact paragraph, so now your strategy is going to be changed. You are going to pick up that particular feeling which has 2 details. For example, the feeling of disappointment has only 1 detail. So that means that the focus of your question is not being fulfilled. So you are going to avoid it for the answer, right? And if in case feeling of being scared have 2 details, so you are going to pick up the feeling of being scared and you're going to write down 2 details. In this way, you would be able to fulfill the main requirement of the question. So before answering this question and before concluding the particular feelings the writer had, let's go back to the text. And here is your text. Uh, Sorry, I forgot. It is from paragraph number 3. Yes, here is your paragraph number 3. He took me to the ice house and ushered me, apparently closing the door shut. So as soon as the door was shut behind, so that means that the writer might have been feeling scared, or might be feeling pleased, or might be feeling proud, right? So the most appropriate feeling which is being made over here is that he was pleased, right? He was happy. So if I just write happy here, so this is going to be accepted because the feeling is going to be a 1 word answer. So yes, the 1 word answer is acceptable. Now, why he was feeling happy? There are 2 particular details given in the text. As soon as the writer heard that he has been called inside, so the first thing that made him happy that he is not at all required to clean the mess that he has created, right? And the second thing that made him happy was that as he has been standing outside in the garden, so that means he was facing the heat, but the temperature inside the kitchen was quite very moderate or the cold. So that means he's escaping from the heat. So yes, according to the details, these details are fulfilling the main focus of our question. So we are going to pick up these details. So let's write it down over here. Let's use this line. The first detail: to escape the heat, to escape from cleaning the mess he had created, right? So in this way, you're going to answer with the 2 particular details to support the feeling that you have pointed out. Now, question number 1, part D. Explain what the writer was thinking when he leaned against the door and it surprisingly swung open. Line number 13 and 14. So let me go back to the text and let me quickly highlight the lines. Let me use a different color to highlight the lines. And the lines are 13 to 14. It surprisingly swung open. Here is the phrase that is being used. Surprisingly swung open. And if we keep on reading the whole entire sentence to reveal Ahmed waiting patiently outside. Now, let's go back to the question where the question says, explain what the explain what the writer was thinking when he leaned against the door. So if we just look at the particular scenario that has been discussed over here in the past, in this particular paragraph, is that the writer was being called inside, Ahmed was stepping forward, and as soon as Ahmed went inside, the door was shut. So writer assumed that he is not at all allowed to go inside, or the pathway where the writer was standing was a passage where they usually used to keep the ice blocks. So the writer was considering that he has been punished and he had been blocked over here, right? So let's proceed with writing answer number D. So he was assuming that he's being locked inside, that he had been locked. Let me just enlarge my. Sorry, let me just enlarge my text box. Yes. So the writer was assuming that he had been locked in, or he might have been stuck over there. So the answers that I'm writing over here is the basic context that is going to be acceptable. It's not necessary at all that all of your answers are going to be aligning with what I have written. You can rephrase, but the main idea should remain the same, right? Now, moving on to question number E. And question number E says that from paragraph number 5, identify two techniques used by the palace kitchen cooks that the writer thought could be useful to improve the flavor of the ice he is making with Ahmed. So, in this question, to me, it seems quite very easy. I don't need to go back to the text. The first technique that has been used was pure fruit, right? And the other technique which was used was extracting perfumes from the flavors, right? Extracting perfumes of flowers, not flavors. Okay. So for this question, to me, it seems quite very easy. And while I had read the text, so these techniques were already in my mind. So I have quickly written it down. If you want to make any sort of confirmation, so you can go back to the text to confirm your answer. Now, moving on with part F. Give two reasons that why the secret of the ice had remained known to few. Again, this is of question. This question is of 2 mark. The two reasons are quite very easy as well. Number one was that it was passed from generation to generation. The tradition remained between two families only, and most of the things that have been used over here were either in the family booklets or being written by or memorized by Ahmed. Right? It's in line number 22. So yes, here it is. These were the ancient secrets known for the few, passed down with the two families. Let me highlight the text with you. Passed down within two families who supplied frozen ice we can omit out this phrase that who were the families, because this is the introduction about the families, and it is not at all required in our question. Some of this knowledge was contained in the stained leather bounds, but most of was kept in the Ahmad's hand. So that means that most of the knowledge had been stored within the family, right? So yes, let's go back to the question paper and write down our answer. Number one, that the secrets remain between two families only. Secrets of creating liquor, creating liquor remained between two families, and the next one is that most of the knowledge was with Ahmed, or you can say was under the supervision of Ahmed, right? So these are the two particular details due to which this secret remained between two families only, and the common people or the local people had no particular idea at how to make that particular recipe. Now, moving on to the part G, and then we have the last part of our question number one. Part G has two subparts, one and two. In paragraph number 7, the writer asked Ahmed what the ice they made tasted like. Number one, what reason did the writer give Ahmed for wanting to know? So the reason is still in my mind as I have read the text very thoroughly. So he wanted to taste it so that he could better, so that he can make it more better, right? So the reason is quite clear, so that he could make it better. More better is a wrong terminology. Most of us basically use it. And why it is wrong? Because we are combining two comparative degrees of the adjectives, right? And yeah, only this is of 1 mark question. So yeah, this answer is enough. The second part says that suggests the real reason the writer was asking the taste of the ices. So the reason that was given in the passage is that he wanted to taste it so that he can cook it in a better way, or he can point out the particular drawbacks due to which the drinks might have lost their charm or bring some sort of innovation. So, but the actual thing was that he was too curious to taste it. As if we just look at the phrase, I had been working for Ahmed almost 2 years before I dared to ask what the ice we made tasted like. 2 years. That means that he had spent 2 years and he had not been given the opportunity to taste the ice. So this means that he was curious to know, right? Curious to know how the ice tastes like. Or you can simply say he was curious to know the taste of the ice he made. Now, the last part of our question number one, which is basically a textual evidence based question, and it is based on feeling. For this part of question, usually examiner ask you to go back to the text and from anywhere for the whole entire text pick up three particular feelings that the writer have. right? So the question says that explain using your own words the writer's different feelings and the opinions about Ahmad while he was working with him. So here you have been directed to talk about the interaction the writer had made with the Ahmad. So the structure of this question is going to be feeling plus evidence, right? For example, if you say that he felt quite very comfortable to work with Ahmad, so you have to provide the reason that why he was uh, feeling comfortable, right? First and the foremost thing, we can say that as we look at the text from the beginning in a chronological order. So the first event, the first encounter that the author had with the Ahmad was about the time when he had broken the huge block of the ice into the small tiny pieces. So he was expecting Ahmad to be angry. So that means he was scared, right? So I can say that either nervous or scared. And because he was expecting to be punished by Ahmed for the mess he created. Yes, I have written the wrong spelling of expecting. So far, I'm using the autocorrect option, but you would be sitting in the exam at the moment I'm typing, so I can use this autocorrect option. But make sure that once you have written your answer, you need to review your answer to correct your spelling mistakes. Although spelling and grammatical mistakes are not being counted, are not being penalized in your reading paper, but if in case the mistakes are huge and they are hindering the readability of your reader, so yes, they are going to be counted, right? So the second thing, that the second feeling that we can see from the text is that Ahmed is a proudy. He considered mm, Ahmed a proudy person when Ahmed mentioned he was a proud person, not proudy. Proudy is a wrong word. Yes, when Ahmed mentions or mentioned about the expertise, like when he remember that when he expressed that we are not cook, we are engineer. So this is the way he is basically talking about the way he is putting himself onto the superior level, right? So in this way, you're going to pick up two details. The three details. Two details I have picked up, and one detail I am leaving for your practice. From anywhere of the text, you can pick up any particular feeling that the writer developed while he was working with the Ahmad. So in this way, the first part of your paper number one is going to be done. And this question number one is total is of 16 marks. Sometimes the examiner try to keep a balance that they give 8 marks for the explicit questions and 8 marks for the implicit questions. Or sometimes they even don't try to keep the balance. They even extend the limit for the explicit and they decrease the limit for the implicit questions. Now, let's move on to the next part of our paper number one, which is our question number two. And this is the use of language. As far as the structure of question number two is concerned, so here we would be given with the text and we would be asked with the questions. The question number two, part A says that ice crystals cracked and crushed against my teeth, dissolving on my tongue with a sparkling sensation. What effect did the writer suggest about the sensation of the crystals dissolving in his tongue by using the word sparkling to describe it? So far, the two key terms that have been used in our question number 2 are effect and impression. What are they? Impression is what you feel internally, and effect is how you react towards your internal feeling or the feeling that you have, right? For example, if you are angry, so being angry is your impression. And when you're angry, you would burst into tear or you would broke into the fight with your friend. This is what your reaction is. So this is called effect. So here we have to point out the effect that the writer is basically suggesting. So it suggests that the eyes felt exciting, magical, and delightful, just like a celebration. Sorry. So the effect that is being created is of enjoyable. So I am just going to write down the context. You can compose a sentence by using your own words. Remember, for your question number 2, it is recommended to answer by using proper sentence structure so that your explanation can make a vivid meaning, right? So I'm just writing the main context over here to save my time and wind up the session as soon as we can. So you can, in order to practice yourself, you can compose a whole entire sentence. Part B says that read this extract from the text, but once I would got over the initial strangeness, I found I could not forget that extraordinary flavor, nor the cold, frozen grittiness. I was as if the ice itself was incising, daring me on from then on, without Ahmed knowing. I tasted every ice confection we made. What does the writer want to suggest to the reader at this point of the story? So this is a particular phrase from where it has been taken from the text when author deliberately uh, tried to taste each and everything. So this is basically a turning point. That is basically the change in the relationship that between he and the way the Ahmed is treating. So now that means the writer has adopted his own instructions, like he's working out of the way, right? Moving on to question number C. Explain why the writer uses the word creature rather than the boy in the expression a creature incapable of reason. The creature incapable of the reason, over here the writer is directing Ahmed. The word creature is used for Ahmed. This is a vocabulary question. The writer could have used the boy, but writer has not used the boy. Rather than using a boy, the writer has used the word a creature, right? So this is the use of vocabulary. So here the two impression that is being created over here is that it might be that he is unusual person, or we can say that Ahmed has some sort of unusual personality. In a way, like we have explored in the text, that sometime he was even friendly and sometime he was quiet, sometimes he has been bossy. So that means he has not a fixed personality, he has not a fixed trait. He had a mood, we can say that he had a mood swings, right? The second last question for our question number 2 is that what two impression does the writer want to convey to the reader in the sentence? And the sentences are basically the line 50 to 53. And so I learned the sub sorry. And so I learned the subtle art of more complex water ice, sorbety, in which the syrup themselves were frozen, transforming magically the mounds of glittering crystals and the sherbets, the most difficult and the enchanting of all, expertly infused with the fragrant cardamom and resembling frozen snow. So, first and the foremost thing, the impression that you can quickly get is that hardworking, or you can say complicated, that learning this art was quite very difficult, right? And the second impression is it was difficult to enchanting all the expertise and the fragrant cardamom. That means they have a lovely taste or they have a lovely smell. So these are the two particular impression that has been created in these lines. You can compose your answer in the structure of the bullet points or by using the simple sentence structure in two separate lines. Now, finally, the last part of our question number 1, which is basically to identify one example how the writer uses language effectively. As I have mentioned in my lectures before, a lot of time that effective usage of the language, what it does this term mean? This is a very wide terminology, and it comes with all the particular techniques that usually authors apply to make their composition unique than the others. It comes with the usage of the literary devices, it comes with the usage of the sentence structure, it comes with the usage of the vocabulary, it even comes with the development of the tone, development of the character, the complex way, the usage of the imagery, the usage of the sensory details. So in order to answer this question, what you just simply have to do is the simple step that you have to read the given text. Over there you will find one particular example. The example you don't need to transform in your own words. Just pick and write down one particular example. That example can be the usage of the adjectives. That example can be the usage of the punctuation. That example can be the usage of any sort of literary device. Write down the example and then explain it by using your own words, right? Only thing that you have to make sure that the explanation must align with your example. It should not be like that for example, if you are picking up the phrase that by day I followed Ahmad instructions dutifully, right? For example, if I'm just picking up this as an example, that by that day, let me highlight it for you, I followed Ahmad's instructions dutifully. So here the writer is trying to convey the impression, or in your explanation you can say that the narrator become obedient to the Ahmad. By using the simple sentence structure, writer is conveying the simple idea that despite being all the particular conflicts, all the particular disagreements that the writer had previously with the Ahmad, now he have understood that what is his duty and what he should do. Our question number 2 is of 9 marks, right? So in this way, you would be able to complete the 25 marks of your paper number 1, section A. The next target is basically our summary writing. The question says that read the text B, the authentic travel company, in the insert and answer question number 3. So the best technique that you have to follow to write down the summary are the 4 simple steps. The first and the foremost simple step is read the question and understand the focus. Question says that summarize what Bob Hunter thinks would appeal to the customers booking a holiday with his travel company according to text B. Bob Hunter is the name of a person. Customer, so that means the usage of the word customer is giving us a guideline to understand that Bob Hunter is a person who owns the company. And the things that we have to talk about is the appeal, like the attraction or the benefits that he usually offer to the customers, right? So first step we have applied over here. The second step of writing down the summary is to go back to the text and read it thoroughly and to identify the relevant information which are aligning to your question, right? So let's move on to the reading of our text B, which is technically our second step. Text B, the Atlantic Travel Company. When Australian Bob Hunter co-founded Atlantic Travel in 1989, offering small group tours. So the first attraction we have encountered over here, right? Let me use another color. That the company was founded in It was co-founded in 1989, and initially they were offering small group tours, that they were not allowing a large number of the groups. And the menu offered was less varied than it is today. That means that all the facilities that had been provided with the company up to date are now are quite very complex and wide, but when it was established, so it was quite very limited, right? He was the company's only guide. Thailand was its only destination, yet basic concept of the traveler getting a genuine, real experience. This is another excitement. Sorry, not excitement. This is another appealing feature that he, as the owner of the company, made sure that all the customers are going to get the real experience of the traveling, like all the particular needs are going to be fulfilled, right? As reflected in the name, proved a winner. The name of the company is authentic. That means a thing which is creditable, right? So he is aligning his vision along with the mission and with the name of the company. Over the next decade, the company expanded into Southeast Asia, right? Today, Hunter oversees 1,300 local guides. This means that now the company has become a global company. Initially, it was started as a local company, but now it is a global company working in an immersive 130 countries. So 130 countries is a fact. Despite his hectic workload, he is never stopped traveling for work, relaxation, and to continue exploring. He interviewed him to find out more. The first place I traveled to was the UK. After graduating from the university in 1981, aged 21. This is the personal experience of him that has nothing to do with the company, right? So we are going to omit out this detail. I met a great friend, and afterwards, he backpacked around a dozen different European countries. I didn't get to travel again until I was 27. When I spent 3 months traveling around the Southeast Asia, it was then that I started thinking about all the people back in Australia who would enjoy backpacking overseas but worried about the safety, so did not have the confidence to do it all by themselves. Organizing things like the healthcare can also be tricky and time consuming even for us as a professionals. So here, along with the expression of his own experience, he is also saying that they provide some sort of secure trip, right? Let me see if we have any text clue over here. Mm, that because the people have no particular safety, so they lose their confidence to travel alone. That means that their company, the authentic travel company, make sure about the safety of the passengers. So I started exploring the idea of more supported kind of backpacking on which did not involve staying in the dingy, musty places travelers on the foot might normally expect to be offered, but in the hotels and the guest house. That means, but in the hotels and the guest house, that means that they provide luxury facilities that are cleaned and comfortable, which means that they look after the comfort factor. But the moment those guests walked outside their hotel, they would still get to see what the other backpackers saw, a different culture without being isolated from the local people and the realities of the everyday lives. So here the particular message that is being conveyed over here, that if we are considering the example of the other travel companies, so they usually allocate the particular hotels which is far away from the locality. So if you are traveling from one place to another, so that means that you are getting no particular exposure to get mingle with the local people, but this travel company makes sure that you have an opportunity to mingle with those local people, right? Which is another benefit. This is what you can infer from this information. So in this way, you're going to apply your second step over here. I'm leaving the rest of the point for your practice for this summary. This is just a guideline like how you're going to apply these steps in your writing. As I have mentioned that we are going to follow four simple steps. The first was to read and understand the focus of the question. Second was to read the text and underline the information. Third is to organize the information, right? Now, as you can see that the informations that you have taken out are a complex information. There are few informations that are relevant with the establishment of the company, few information which are highlighting the features of the company, and the few informations which are aligning with the theme of the services that the company offer. So that means all the informations that you might have found out in this extract at different places, you're going to combine them at one place, right? In your summary, when you're going to write about the travel company, so from the beginning you are going to start with when the company was founded, and at the what was the condition of the company at the initial stage, and how it is now globally recognized. Once you are done with it, you are going to go with the logical flow or with the services that they are going to follow. Once you have done your organization in your step number 3, so that means technically you have done approximately 80% of your summary writing task. A lot of areas which can be a source of deduction of your marks have so far now been covered. Now the last step is to compose your summary. So when you're going to compose your summary, you have to make sure that you are following the particular details which has been mentioned in the question. Sorry, not details, the instructions. First and the foremost thing, that your summary should not be in the continuous form. That means if you're writing in the note form, like if you're just putting the bullet points and not writing the summary, so it is not going to be accepted, right? The words should be 150. It can be plus 10, it can be minus 10. 140 is acceptable, 130 is also acceptable, 160 is also acceptable, but 200 is not acceptable at all. The most important instruction: avoid copy pasting long sentences of the text. The summary is supposed to be your own wording, where you have to make sure that the original text that you are using are only aligning with the facts and figures. The name of the company, the name of the places they offer their services, the name of the services they offer. That is a thing that you can lift from the original text. But the rest of the information must be in your own words if you want to achieve better grade in your summary writing question. So again, summary I'm going to leave you for your practice. You can compose your summary by keeping in mind the directions that I have shared in my session. Lastly, before winding up the session, let me just quickly discuss the part B. Part B is basically a short response question. And usually in this question, they give you an allocation for the character, like they place you in the shoe of the character, and they ask you that you have been asked from the local interviewer, and they have, or you have been asked with some sort of question. What you just simply have to do, that the information you have already highlighted from the text, right? This question would be aligning with the same specific information, but you are not going to use the same exact information. You are going to develop and add your own opinion. For example, the question is that some people think that a holiday at a black hole resort would be boring. What is your opinion and why? Black hole resort is a particular place for which is being enlisted in the services of the company, right? So that means the backpacking thing has been discussed. So the idea of traveling from one place to another, like the way I had been discussing a few moments ago when we were highlighting the information from the text, when you are moving from one place to another, and mostly companies allocate you the hotels which are far away from the town. So that means you cannot get any sort of exposure to mingle with the local people, and until unless you are not mingling with the local people, so that means you are unable to understand their culture, you are unable to understand them, right? So you can pick up this information, align it with your opinion, and explain it. Introducing the idea, 1 mark. Development of idea, 1 mark. And the rest 3 marks are for your explanation. This is what the simple structure of your part B is going to be. I hope this section has, I hope this session has been quite very effective for you to understand the tactics and the techniques that you are going to follow to attempt your past paper. So I would like to end over here with all the best wishes for you and happy learning.